प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्।
Last week, what we did was, and in previous weeks, we discussed that the whole methodology of Sri Krishna dealing with Arjuna, and therefore all of us in any state of distress, will be to give us an immediate tonic, immediate relief must be there. With that in mind, just to refresh your memory, some key phrases are there. Yield not to unmanliness. And this does not befit you. If you were to tell anybody, small child, when they misbehave, just that one sentence, this does not befit you, it will make a difference. Even adults are also children, just playing different toys, playing golf balls instead of train sets and so on. Mm-hmm. So the formula must be there. My dear fellow, my dear friend, this does not befit you. When somebody gets into an emotional state, it's really, from a psychological point of view, replaying how they behaved when they were very small, as a child. And you have that phrase in English, the person threw their toys out of the cot. It means they behaved like a child. A wave came along in the mental field, took over them, they got caught up with it, identified with the wave, and declared, I am angry, or I am jealous, or I am upset, or I am disturbed, evoking a number of different reactions. So the key to all of that is, on the sense level, we're dealing with the world. In other words, consciousness, which is our birthright, here in this Gita described as Atman. That consciousness is our birthright, is flowing through, as it were, the 5 areas which we call the 5 senses. Our reaction to the world that it presents gives us the difficulty, jealousy, greed, depression, a feeling of being the victim, emotional difficulties, and so on. If we were to take that consciousness appearing in that way and redirect it as attention elsewhere, what will happen? If we deal with the world in a poised way, what will happen to our difficulties? And that is what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna from the very start. Firstly, this value that you think you have, where the words seem very wise, but the behavior doesn't fit the words. The words seem to be logical and wise, but actually that's not the truth. No one can evaluate things in emotional state. Nobody can be steady. So the final conclusion of the 2nd chapter introduces some beautiful, beautiful terms. Sthitta prajna, somebody of steady wisdom. The whole of our life is an endeavor to make the mind steady. To make the mind in such a way that no disturbance can come or go. Despite the fact that man experiences, unlike anything else, unlike a chair, man experiences the opposites, sukha dukkha. With that, man has to find a way around it. Not by crashing through, not by leaving, not by retreating. And so a tonic is given, just in brief, just to catch you up. Then, Krishna has a very difficult task from there on, but he lays a foundation for all of us. What is the reason, what is the cause for all disturbance in the world? Why do people suffer? Why does one country go and conquer another? In the domestic environment, in the political environment, in the economic environment, in all these various spheres of life, why is it that people get into difficulties? It's only because of one fundamental fact, and that has a philosophical basis. The basis of the entire Sanatana Dharma is that there is an entity which doesn't move in the midst of things that move. And that is infinite, that is undivided. If you know that, then all these other things will stabilize. Because of that, Krishna puts that as his strategy. You would think And Arjuna gets confused. You would think that such a philosophy, which essentially is jnana yoga, you analyze the world and strip away what is fleeting, what is changing, what is the changeable, in a process of neti, take this away, until you've got rock bottom and you find a data that doesn't get disturbed. In the process of doing that, you think, and Arjuna also thought, this endorses my very argument. This tells me I should run away. It tells me I should retreat. Because jnana marga is not for those who have an active disposition. They can go off and lead a monastic life. For so many thousands of years that happened. But what about the common man who lives a life? The whole issue is picked up in the very early text. You find it in the Upanishad. There, I give you the translation of it. Wishing to live 1,000 years, if that's what you wish, and most people wish it, then do your work in such a way that it's not binding. So from the very start, it's there in the Upanishads. We find it as one shloka. But thereafter, we find it in greater detail. Because Arjuna's formula, run away, is the old-fashioned formula, go into jnana marga, only suitable for people of keen intellect. People who have the disposition and the wherewithal and the inclination and the motivation to withdraw, and with ruthless determination, like Ramana Maharshi ask, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Repeatedly ask the question until a conclusion flashes. Ruthlessly do it, going through every aspect of the world and finding the very layers of changing. Seeing that what we see as a material world is nothing more than waves at varying densities. On the sense level, we find waves of varying densities, which we call the sense objects. And despite the fact that most of us, most people brought up in Hinduism, have been told from this age, you know, there's this Atman, there's this inner self. It's part of the inculcated understanding in Hinduism. Yes, you can worship Krishna and so on and so forth, but the immanence that Krishna is in you is inferred all the time. However, not many people know it. They've heard of it, but if you knew it, you'd have no reluctance about giving up the body. So just to refresh your memory, Krishna tells you, you see, it's just like the body is just like a piece of clothing. When it's worn, quietly you take it and throw it off. And you get a new one. No point in wearing something that's threadbare. If the body is like that, and if we truly understand it, what is the traumatic part about dying? Why should we get upset about it? It's because we don't actually really know it. Having heard it and understood it intellectually, reasoned it out, still we cling on. And that is one of the kleshas mentioned in the technique of the whole Patanjali Yoga Sutras, 5 kleshas there. So the final one is clinging to life. Even in old age, holding on, to your last breath, holding on. Let it go. And so modern society has taken that, because modern society is increasingly materialistic. In other words, set on the sense-bound level. Set on the sense-bound level, with that in mind, this looks real, it doesn't look as if it's changing, and it's a bit like seeing a small child will say, oh, have you ever seen at night the big full moon? Have you seen it? The big full moon? Yeah? Have you seen it moving? Yeah. Some people see it moving, and they say, why is the moon moving? But it's not the moon, it's the cloud. And it looks as if the moon is moving. Have you ever seen that? Or sat in a train, say, oh, we're moving now. And a person who understands better says, no, Swamiji, it's just the train is staying still, but the one next door is moving. It looks like you're moving. We superimpose movement on something that's not moving. Now this is a profound discovery from the ancient sages. And unless we have that as a basis, we can't go to a more practical step. We can't go to the practical step of how will we get out of this shochati, this world of sorrow. How can we get na shochati, sorrowless? Well, you have to first understand things for what they are. So because of that, we pick up today with the 16th stanza in the second chapter, because it's a highly, highly philosophical stanza being put. Now, there's a highly philosophical term being used. The basis of it is tattvam. There are two things, the badam and tattvam. And when we confuse the two, we can become either materialistic, we can be non-materialistic in our philosophy, but materialistic in our behavior, because we emphasize this madam. What is this madam? It's multiple. What is this tattvam? There's only one of it. If we could understand that, a lot of things will disperse for us, a lot of difficulties, even in religious difficulties. All religions are badam, speculation, things I like, things I prefer. Not what is actually rock bottom, solid truth. If we get to that tattvam, then we realize madam, there may be variations. You can have so many. You can have theories, you can have doctrines, you can have dogmas. Even with the Hinduism, you can have Vaishnavism, you can have Shaivism. You can have three philosophical positions. You can have Dvaita, dualism. Most of us are dualists. But that doesn't mean we have to stick there. And the beauty about Vedanta is, take all these three positions like tools. You can use them as you want. Now if you take one of those tools, Advaita, the non-dualistic philosophy, what will it do if you understand it? If you understand that there is no duality anywhere, the immediate result of that would be exactly what Arjuna is seeking. You'll be seeking fearlessness. You can only have fear where there's more than one. If there are two or more, naturally you'll be fearful. So how do you bring that into a practical context? I often tell people like this. See, supposing, and I brought this up last week, you have an actor. One of the most famous Shakespearean actors was Irving. He played the part of Hamlet on the Shakespearean stage. Now, ask the normal question. When will Hamlet ever become Irving? The question doesn't make any sense. There are no two. There's no Hamlet and Irving. Irving is Hamlet when he plays Hamlet. Then Hamlet is just a role being played. Therefore, the only real way to explain how does this ultimate principle seem to become the main is only through the principle of lila. It's a play, it's a drama, it's something on a stage. When the stage is empty, we call that pratnya, dreamless sleep. When the stage opens and there's a certain act one, we call that tejasa, something that shines. That's called a dream, some drama going on. Then ultimately, the next act, where I go and play it myself, instead of looking at it, that's called Vishwa. It means a waking state. If I know this truly, and know that the real tattvam of it is steady and stable, it will remove many difficulties for me. That is why this highly philosophical statement is made, which really needs laboring. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha. The unreal, nasato, the unreal. Sat is that which exists. Asat is that which does not exist. But surely all of this exists. On a sense level, yes, of course. The fact that you say that you can blast the atom and get radiation, waves of radiation, and that according to physics, modern physics, everything is not as it seems. There's an old story I remember, written by a number of these stories, I don't know who. The way of saying that is somebody called Anonymous. So Mr. Anonymous, he tells the story, based in Middle Age England. King John was hunting deer all over, and then he came across this huge abbey. And in those days, in the Middle Ages, the Brahmins were corrupt, as happens everywhere. So the abbot had accumulated a lot of wealth, and he had this huge abbey with lots of grounds and so on. So the king came along, naturally they entertained him, brought out the silverware, beautiful silver plates, beautiful silver goblets, served him nicely. The king, being greedy, said, I think I'll take all of this, since I'm the king of England. If I'm the king of England, all this land is mine anyway. I'll take it. So the abbot was very distressed. Seeing that, and poking a little fun, King John said, all right, I'll give you a chance. You answer 3 questions. I won't make them easy. I'll give you 2 weeks to answer them. After 2 weeks you can come, and then to London. And then if you answer them successfully, you can hold on to what you have. Otherwise, it's mine. What are these questions? How long does it take to travel around the earth? First question.
Around?
The earth.
I don't know. Yeah.
Second question, what am I, the king, worth in money? Difficult. Very careful, very delicate question. Third question is, when we meet, you have to tell me, what am I thinking now? It's very difficult. He couldn't answer. He couldn't think of how to get around it, asked everybody. Eventually a shepherd came in the poem and says, if you pay me some money up front, then I'll answer those 3 questions. I go off to London. What can I do? My last chance. All right. There's only 2 conditions. One, you pay me up front. Secondly, you give me monastic clothing, which has a hood. And I'll pretend that I'm you. I'll go to London, answer the 3 questions. So he did that, went to London. The king said, oh, I see you're here. You couldn't see his face. He covered with this cowl, monastic hood. How long will it take to go around the earth? He says, well, Your Majesty, if you start with the sun and travel with the sun, 24 hours. You couldn't argue with that. All right, next question. What am I, the king, worth? You're worth 29 pieces of silver. Is that all? He says, well, see, they sold Jesus for 30. So he went to just 1 less. That's fair. It's all right. What's the third question? What am I thinking now? And he threw his hood off. You're thinking I'm the bishop. I'm not. You see, things are not what they seem to be. We only value things from our 5 versions. The 5 photographs we have of the universe becomes our reality. Sooner or later, we have to break that a little bit. Gradually, bit by bit, we can do it. Philosophy helps us. We have to be convinced that what we see now is unreal. It's not that it is unreal from a complete, absolute point of view, but it is relatively unreal in the sense that this second is gone. See, I don't know where the second is gone, but I know it's gone forever. It will never come back. So what becomes real now is gone. As long as you have time, what is real now is gone. The next moment. If you swim in a river, the water passing you will never be the same. It will always go off, with something new coming. The human body will always be renewed. These cells of the body will not be the same in several years' time. A complete renewal, a complete reincarnation of the body takes place in this lifetime. So seeing that changeability, we can evaluate. Actually, there's something fixed. If there wasn't something fixed, we wouldn't be able to see the changes. If you want to see how does a river flow, it must be a solid bank in contrast to it. And in contrast to them both must be something there that observes the changing, flowing river and observes the bank on the other side. What is that? What is that datum that is more subtle, that is fixed, that doesn't go away, that's able to observe, that doesn't get involved in the changes. What is that station master who stands on the platform and doesn't come with the first train, doesn't go with the last train? Tell me, what is that? That is what has been investigated. That is the central theme of the Sanatana Dharma. What is that Atma? You know, the whole idea of I and having the self is only peculiar to man. It's not peculiar to any other living organisms. The sense of I, what we call biophysical, psychophysical evolution. And I mentioned in the class previously, without that I, how would we be able to control a buffalo much bigger than us, an elephant much bigger than us? With 1 foot it can crush us. So that's a very, very important, significant data. So it goes. Nasate vidite bhavo, na bhavo vidite sataha. The unreal has no existence. The real never ceases to be. And then, abhayo abhi kristonantas tvanos tattva. This technical term, tattvam, that which never changes, that's the thing we have to grasp in every context, the physical context, the psychological context, and also in a religious context. The truth about both has been realized by those tattvadashivihi, by the knowers of the truth. We don't know the truth. Even despite the fact that we know the fleeting nature of the human body, how it changes from moment to moment, how it's renewed, despite that, we still cling on. Despite that, we have to sit with Yudhishthira and answer the question, what is the greatest paradox in the world? Asked by a ghost by the lake, and his reply is, this paradox is that death is all around us, but we assume it will never ever happen to me. It's a skeleton we keep in the closet. And bring it up, we ignore it. Only when a friend or something pinches us a little bit. So we go through life tasting the bitter and sweet fruits. There's a beautiful story there in the Mundaka Upanishad, the ancient story. A tree, 2 birds on the tree. One at the top, radiating blessedness and bliss and peace, radiating calmness. We may call it in this language sthita prajna, steady wisdom, beaming. Its job is to see, not to be seen. Radiating. From our sense-bound view, we say, I think it's God. Then there's that bird flitting from on the lower parts of the branches of the tree. In a few months' time, here in Ireland, when I first came here, I discovered this truth. The blackberries come up. You're free to pick them. They're free. But it's no guarantee which one will be bitter and which one will be sweet. So you can take one, it's pot-like. You take one and you taste it, it's very sharp. You take one, it looks exactly the same, it's very sweet. So tasting the bitter and sweet fruits of life. The normal average Jivatman stays flitting through all these experiences. For all of us, the great lesson in life, and Arjuna tasted it, was taste something that is more bitter than the rest, normally Barita. Normally something that shocks the system. Take that, that's a valuable lesson. That's the value of the first chapter of this Gita. Your life is not smooth. How will you take it? You must make sure that you have, in an earlier stanza there, titiksha, forbearance, a wonderful quality. What in modern neuro language is called tolerance of pain. You know, your pain threshold. What is your pain threshold? Some people have more, some people have less. Some will take an injection needle and not flinch. Others will see it being loaded and faint. So how much tiksha do you have? To make sure that you cultivate that in every sphere of life is necessary. So it's a very important quality. As one of the 4 essential qualities of a student of this higher wisdom, or one of the 6 treasures, is this titiksha, along with shraddha and other things. Sama, dhamma and so on. This titiksha is extremely important. Without that, you can't really do the rest. You can't get the strength that you require. Now, some people want to cultivate that deliberately. If you go to extreme, look at the sun straight on and stand on one leg, that is not recommended in this very Gita. That's a tamasic kind of tapasya. Why do you want to damage the body where the Atman sits, the Lord of the universe sits there, shining, and you want to destroy the temple? Don't do it. But it may be better than doing nothing. So cultivating a sense of willpower is essential. Buddhi yoga, cultivating that sense of willpower. The truth about both has been realized by us. So this great ocean of bliss that we call Atman has not just to be heard of, but has to be understood and realized through many, many examples about what is permanent, what is impermanent, therefore what is real, what is unreal. And latch on to the thing that is real and understand that this is compatible increasingly with modern science. The great scientist Fritjof Capra, he quotes from the Chandogya Upanishad, that beautiful section that says, Pranove Brahma. Prana, energy, but not your energy, my energy. The prana as a universal energy. There's no such thing as matter. You've never seen matter. It all gets resolved into energy. It's just a way of saying something. It's just a concept, matter. But the real thing is, below that, is underlying waves of energy. Modern science understands it. Now, what is that aspect that expresses itself as energy? We call it consciousness. So that consciousness is what is Atman. You have to know it and make that distinction. So science says, and Fritjof Capra is saying, Pranova Brahma, and then is followed by, just to remove any misunderstanding. Is it a limited kind of prana? What kind of prana is it? No, it's consciousness expressed like that. It is Kam Brahma, Kam Brahma. Ka. Ka, first consonant of the alphabet there. Ka. What is this ka? The student asks the teacher, what is this ka? What is this ka? I can't understand it. I can understand prana, but what is this ka? The teacher tells him, oh, that ka stands for akasha. Akasha is that which pervades everything. Like space. If you understand that, you'll understand how prana pervades everything, underlying everything. You think it's solid. Because on the sense level, we declare it. Proper analysis will tell you, no, it actually dissolves, like a wave dissolves into an ocean. What is the difference? The ocean is there, expressed as a wave. We only take the crest on the sense level, and as long as we operate on that, we have materialism. That's the difficulty. Go deeper, is what all these philosophers tell you. And Krishna is telling you the same. And then he says, Avinasi tu tat vidhi, sarvam idam tatam. Know that to be truly indestructible. Avinasi, indestructible. To, indeed, truly, it's the fact that vidhi, yena, by whom, is all that's pervading. None can effect the destruction of that unchangeable. Labored again and again this very truth. While instructing disciples, the Guru first pointed out 2 fingers, indicating that there's a relative existence and another 2 realities going on. And then we can call that Brahman and Maya. And then he folded in one finger to suggest Brahman is the ever constant one. Maya appears and disappears, appears and disappears. It's true in modern physics also. When you get to the quantum level, it appears, something appears. You look in a different direction, it disappears. What is this Atman that's been told about in modern language? It's the observer. The observer that observes. Its job is to see, not to be seen. Its job is to know, not to be known. You've never seen your face. When did you last see your face? You never see it. Have you seen your face? Huh? Have you ever seen your face? Oh, when?
Today.
Really? In a mirror?
Yeah.
Ah. But you actually never saw your face, you just saw the reflection. Isn't it? So who is the one that's looking? You can never see it. A seer's job is not to be seen. It's only to see. That's the point. Okay. Then we go 18. Antavatan ime deha nityasyo ta shuririnaha. Nitya, these bodies of the indweller, antavanantaha, having an end. These deha bodies, nityasya, of the everlasting. Since we don't know it directly, we have to rely on what is said. These are said to be indestructible, immeasurable. Immeasurable? Very interesting term. Aprameyasya. Ma. See, is the same root as mind, as measure. This universe cannot be known when it's measured. Something that is measured is known objectively. But who is the one that measures it? That's something different. A distinction has to be made. Even mathematics is a measurement of the external universe. For all these reasons, you have to go and fight. Earlier, you need to fight, but it's not presented why. Just do it. You have to be strong. Do it. Running away is not the answer. Confronting and doing what you have to do is the answer. But there's no why to it. Here's the why. So, like that. And then a beautiful saying that is actually taken word for word from the Katha Upanishad. There's no difference. Yainam viti hantaram yaschayanam manyate hatam. He who holds Atman, this self, enough, as the slayer, as the one that kills, and he who considers it is slain, both of them are ignorant. It slays not, nor is it slain. Then the Atman, beautiful saying, a companion saying, good. The Atman is neither born nor does it die. Coming into being and ceasing to be do not take place in it. Unborn, eternal, constant and ancient, is not killed when the body is slain. We take life like that. Somehow we are born at a certain point in time, X, and we go on there. We would like to go on infinitely, and much theology says that you go on infinitely. Whether you go on and take another body or whatever it is, but you see, Hinduism is very clear. It's not like that at all. It's like this. What you call birth, life and death is birth, life, death. What you call childhood, old age, and adult old age is just that. And it doesn't stop there. It goes on. Birth, life, death, and so on. Birth, life, death. It's a cycle. It's cyclical. That shouldn't be any reason for complacency. The whole thrust of this Dharma is don't purchase a return ticket. Purchase one-way ticket because you have the equipment and therefore the opportunity to do it. So every philosopher points it out very clearly. Shankaracharya in his beautiful text of Viveka Shudamani and so on, this is the first thing he says. Born with this body, with this earth car, And with this wonderful engine called mind, why should you not attain your freedom, your moksha? Why do you want to dally in a foreign place? Why don't you assert yourself? Why don't you, with tremendous strength and forbearance, understand your true nature? If you don't do it, don't sit and complain. Karma is like this. What you're experiencing now, you loaded on a goods train so many years ago, and it's appearing here. How did we meet? You can't say, oh, how did we meet? As if it was an event caused by something yesterday, a chance meeting. No, it must have been thought about maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and now it arrives. DHL delivers your package, and you open it. There's no room to complain. No, it's not what I ordered. You ordered it. Exactly, you ordered it. But it's not what I want. It's what you ordered. See, when we say what we want, we deliver something like this. Please give me health and wealth. It's followed by a bracket. I don't have it. So the +1, -1. You didn't get anyway. We say, no, there's a position which hasn't got a gap. It's already full, it's already free. I don't have to get something. Am I already, do I have to be spiritual? No. I'm already spiritual. I'm already Atman. I just have to know it. When will I be spiritual? No, wrong question. I'm spiritual now. I have to understand it. So from a position of full and free is the most positive position. If I'm positive, I say my glass is half full. No, it's always full, it's always overflowing. There was never any time it was empty. How is it I don't know it? I can shift my attention from the sense-bound world and deal with things in a poised way, in a steady way, from a position where nothing changes. Observing all the changing things and seeing these as just fragmented versions of consciousness. All this universe is just looking through the fragmentation of the mind. You look at the star through a telescope. Telescope is the mind. You can look at the telescope, the next step. They're called introspection, psychology. Not behavioral psychology, but analytical psychology. Psychology which has an understanding of what is there. And immediately flashes, I'm not the telescope. With that freedom, you say, I can put the telescope down and look away. I have 3 options. That's freedom. I can look through the telescope at the stars. I can look at the telescope. I can look away from it. Then I can re-engage and look through it again, if I choose. I don't have to fly off and not play the game. Now I'll just finish off with one small thing. This approach, which is essentially jnana, how practical is it? Well, it's practical from an ultimate tool that you can use. That is, when life presses you hard and becomes difficult, you can bring out this tool. Like playing a game of tennis. I don't know when Wimbledon starts, but it must be quite soon. Yeah? So, people pay a lot of money to go and watch Wimbledon. They like neck exercise of watching the ball go from left to right, right to left, like that. It's not much of a game if one person serves and then scores. The other person serves and scores, and the game is flattened. Nobody would pay to watch a game like that. We can easily say, if life is a game of tennis with God, then I'll put him on my side and sit there. And we'll play doubles with an imaginary entity on the other side, God himself, because God is everywhere present. He can hit the ball on the one side, in an instant return it on the other. He covers the whole court. And what can I do? I'll sit there in the corner, with my resting on my bat, and watch his game. Then at the end of it, that easy game, I'll take the cup and say, yes, we did very well. My partner did very well. But what kind of game is that? Not much of a game. Supposing I say, even if I put God on the other side, now here's the game. He'll hit the ball up, It'll take 3 minutes or 30 minutes for it to come down. In the meantime, we'll go and have whatever it is, cup of tea and so on. We come back. By the time we come back, the ball is down, and I'll hit it back. An easy game. Lord, give me an easy game. That's one approach. The dualistic approach, which has this one weakness, that it takes away much of our self-reliance and introduces an element of fear. If we bring out another tool, this Advaitic tool, and we say, instead of doing that, I put God on the other side, knowing I have nothing to fear, knowing it's only a game, and say, Lord, you hit with all your might. If I can't return it, then it's a pleasure to be defeated by you. But I'll try and return it. Hit it in as difficult a way as possible. I'll try and return it from this corner. When I've repeated it through so many strokes, mastered that, then I'll ask you, please send me a one in the other corner. So I'll play like that. Then people want to watch it, because it'll be an exciting game. Playing the game, it'll be so much love, so much deuce. And so it goes on. 5 points scored, 100 points scored, 1,000 points scored. Going on after hour, people gasping, it's so close. Then he didn't get it, now it's even, now we're back again. That's a beautiful game. And therefore the longer that game goes on, the better. A long game is what we call reincarnation. And you have to understand it from that point of view. So we say, Lord, you hit the ball. Somebody like that will have a different kind of prayer. They say, Lord, please today give me a nice curveball. Don't let me off easily. In a fearless way, sporting way, loving way, I'll play the game. That's the ultimate tool that comes out. Arjuna doesn't understand it yet. As time goes on, he will. So with that, we finish off today's aspect of this.